Jakarta. Jakarta is Indonesia's most populated city. Jakarta is mixed with everything: the culture, the people, and the stories. Over 85% of people in Jakarta are actually indigenous, but a little bit over 5 to 10% are actually Chinese Indonesians. And that might sound like a bit, but their impact on Jakarta is actually huge. You can see it through the food, the culture, and the traditions. But that story is a bit personal for me because my family is actually a part of that culture. You see, my great-great-grandpa is called Xiao. He was transferring gold illegally into Indonesia when it was still being colonized by the Dutch. But while doing so, he actually got caught by the Dutch and he was forced to land in Indonesia, specifically Batavia. In Batavia, the Dutch took his boat and all his gold. And considering this wasn't the time where people had electronics, he couldn't really communicate back home, especially in a colonized country. Xiao was there for a long time, but another Chinese family called the Ho family there helped him out. After years of being there, Xiao decided to change his name to Ho. So Xiao was a part of the Ho family now. And ever since then, he found someone that he really liked. And that person is from the Lim family. So, Xiao and Lim got married, and eventually they had a kid, which is my grandma's dad. And that's kind of how the whole Chinese blood started in my family. In my opinion, that's an interesting way to form a family. But that's not the history of how Chinese people got to Indonesia. There's actually a whole story behind that, and I'm here to tell you that. So, why are there so many Chinese people in Jakarta? Well, it started hundreds of years ago, way before the Dutch colonized Indonesia. Back then, the Chinese came here to trade ceramic, silk, and spices. They traveled through ports like Batavia, which is currently what we call Jakarta. Some of them stayed and built small communities in the coast. Over time, more Chinese families moved here. Then came the Dutch colony. The Dutch encouraged more Chinese migration to help run and trade businesses in Batavia. The Chinese managed shops, trade, and local markets. Not just to trade, but to start businesses. But it wasn't always that easy for the Chinese people, because they received a lot of discrimination, like the tragedy of 1740, where a lot of Chinese people got killed in Batavia. But over time, the hatred for Chinese people died down, and they became one of the most influential groups in Jakarta. They shaped the city's economy, architecture, and identity. One of the places we'll be talking about is Glodok. Glodok is basically Jakarta's Chinatown. You'll find temples that are over 100 years old. One of them is called Klenteng. In Klenteng, people pray to the Chinese gods. The most popular one is Kuang Im, the goddess of mercy. Now, there's actually 3 ways to pray in the Chinese culture. There are paper offerings and food offerings, but the most common one is incense. Basically, they light these incense sticks, usually 3 at a time, as an offering to the god statues. After lighting them, they would bow a few times toward the altar of the statue. Then, they would stick their incense sticks in sand. The smoke from the sticks is believed to carry the scent to heaven. One of the more popular places in Glodok is Petak Enam. Around Petak Enam, you'll find traditional medicine shops, old-looking restaurants, and lots of lanterns everywhere. Most of the restaurants and medicine shops have probably been passed down from generation to generation. What did you say, Omar?
Timbangan. Oh, untuk obat, toko obat nih.
Digituin, digiling-giling.
Iya tuh digiling tuh.
Even though I didn't film inside the temples, I can still feel the spiritual side of Glodok. I'm not sure, but I think it's the lanterns, the shops, and the people that are there I just felt really Chinese. And then there's Pik, or Pantai Indah Kapuk. It's basically just the modern side of Chinese culture in Jakarta. Everything in Pik looks new, clean, designed, and it's basically built for visitors and tourists. You can still see the traditional influence. The architecture, the symbols, and the red and gold colors everywhere, obviously. It's interesting how Chinese culture in Jakarta has evolved. They came from old trading ports and temples to places like this. The thing I love most about Chinese culture is that it's all around the world, everywhere, adapting to local traditions while preserving its own distinct essence. You can find traces of Chinese culture almost everywhere, and I feel like it'll only keep evolving.